You are crouched by a fire 40,000 years ago, somewhere in the forests that will one day be called Europe. The night presses in close. Beyond the firelight, you hear it, the low click of claws on frozen ground. A shape moves at the tree line, gray, low, silent.
This is not a curious animal. This is an apex predator, a species that brings down elk twice its own body weight, that hunts in coordinated packs, that has killed men before and will kill men again. Every instinct you carry says throw the spear. But the wolf does not attack. It stops just outside the light, and it waits. It isn't sizing you up as prey.
There are now roughly 500 million domestic dogs on Earth, living on every inhabited continent, including research stations in Antarctica. A dog's nose can detect odor compounds at parts per trillion, used to find explosives, narcotics, and the early chemical signatures of cancer and dropping blood sugar. Militaries and police forces worldwide deploy hundreds of thousands of working dogs as active duty personnel, not equipment. Guide and service dogs give tens of thousands of blind and disabled people independent movement through the world, unassisted by another human. Dogs are the only species on the planet that reliably make sustained eye contact with humans as a form of communication.
No human sat down 40,000 years ago and decided to build an alliance with the deadliest predator on the continent. No wolf decided to trust the ape holding the spear. What happened instead has puzzled scientists for over a century. The wrong side of the fire. Every human camp produces waste. Cracked bones, fish heads, fat scraps thrown past the firelight. To a hungry wolf, that pile of garbage is easier to reach than a live elk. But getting close to a camp of armed, upright predators is not a low-risk decision. Most wolves won't take it. Every wild animal has a flight initiation distance, the space it needs before it panics and runs. Wolves born calmer, with a shorter flight distance, could tolerate being near the noise and smell of humans long enough to feed. Nervous wolves fled and starved on the margins. Calm wolves?
No one selected these wolves on purpose. The garbage pile did the selecting. Researcher Kathryn Lord's work on the domestication process describes a narrow developmental window, just weeks long, in which a wolf pup either learns to fear humans or learns to tolerate them, with almost nothing in between. The wolves that couldn't stand the fire's edge disappeared from the gene pool. The ones that could stay became something else. The tameness gene nobody bred for. In 1959, Soviet geneticist Dmitri Belyaev began an experiment with silver foxes in Novosibirsk. He selected breeding pairs for exactly one trait: calmness around humans. Nothing about appearance, nothing about body shape, just tameness. Within a few fox generations, something strange happened. The tame foxes didn't just act friendlier, they started looking different. Floppy ears, curled wagging tails, patches of white fur, rounder faces. None of these traits were selected for directly. They appear to ride along with tameness because the same embryonic cells that shape early brain and stress hormone development also shape ears, tails, and pigment. A chain reaction researchers call domestication syndrome.
Selecting for one behavior rewrote the animal's whole biology as a side effect. Nobody bred wolves for floppy ears or wagging tails. Tameness dragged those traits along for the ride.
Reading a face built for a different species. Point at an object in front of a wolf, even one raised from birth alongside people, and it largely ignores the gesture. Point at the same object in front of a dog puppy, one with no training at all, and it looks exactly where your finger points. This is not intelligence. Wolves solve plenty of problems dogs cannot. It's a specific wiring for social cues aimed at humans.
reading faces, following gaze, tracking pointing gestures, that researcher Brian Hare's comparative studies identified as present in dogs and largely absent in wolves, even hand-raised ones. It looks like a skill that had to be selected for, generation after generation, by whichever early wolves stuck closest to human groups.
A wolf pack reads wolf faces. Somewhere in the last several thousand generations, one branch of that species built a second face-reading system. For us. A wolf reads another wolf. A dog learned to read you. The alliance that let you leave the valley. Now scale this up. A calmer, human-reading wolf isn't just a camp scavenger anymore, it's a hunting partner that can track a wounded bison for miles. A sentry that can smell a cave lion before you can. A heater that sleeps against your side through an Ice Age winter. A skull recovered from Goyet Cave in Belgium, dated to roughly 36,000 years ago, shows features some researchers argue already sit outside the range of a wild wolf, one of the oldest disputed markers of this transformation.
This is the pivot. Domesticating a large predator did not just create a pet species, it created a piece of biological technology that let humans occupy places they could never have survived in alone. Herding animals meant humans didn't have to chase their food across a continent. Guarding a camp meant a family could sleep instead of taking shifts watching the dark. In the Arctic, later generations of these animals would be harnessed to sledges, opening territory no human muscle could have crossed on foot. A predator that once stalked your ancestors for meat became the reason your ancestors could expand into landscapes that should have been unsurvivable. The wolf didn't just move into your camp, it became the tool that let your species walk into the rest of the world.
The bones that rewrote the timeline. In Bonn-Oberkassel, Germany, archaeologists uncovered a grave roughly 14,200 years old. A man, a woman, and 2 dogs, buried together with deliberate care. Analysis of one dog's teeth and bones showed it had suffered a severe illness as a puppy, one that would have kept it unable to eat solid food for weeks. It survived anyway. A sick, useless puppy produces no meat, does no guarding, pulls no sled. By every practical logic of survival, it should have been abandoned. Instead, something or someone kept it alive through weeks of illness, likely by hand-feeding it softened food. That is not a transaction between a tool and its owner. That is the behavioral signature of attachment.
This single grave is one of the pieces of evidence researchers point to when arguing the human-dog bond had already moved past pure utility by this period, into something closer to kinship. This wasn't a tool being maintained. This was family being grieved.
The domestication that domesticated you. Here is the uncomfortable mirror. Some researchers studying domestication syndrome have noticed that modern humans show several of the same physical hallmarks that show up in Belyaev's tame foxes and in dogs compared to wolves. Flatter faces, reduced brow ridges, less physical aggression than our ancient relatives. This is a live and contested hypothesis, not settled fact, that living in denser, more cooperative groups, partly enabled by the safety and labor a domesticated wolf provided, may have applied a similar selective pressure on humans themselves, favoring calmer, more cooperative individuals over aggressive ones. If true, the same biological chain reaction Belyaev triggered in foxes may have been quietly running on us the entire time.
Go back to the fire. 40,000 years ago. The gray shape at the tree line, waiting just outside the light. You know now what that pause really was. Not a predator deciding whether to strike, a mind shaped by generations of nervous ancestors who fled and starved, calculating whether it was finally safe to stay. You didn't choose that moment. Neither did it. A pile of scraps, a narrow window of fearlessness,
And 40,000 years of small accidents chose it for both of you. The fire still throws its light a few meters into the dark, and somewhere just past the edge of it, something is still deciding whether to come closer. It already decided, a long time ago. You just never got to see the moment it happened.